Hey guys, thanks again for being mentors for us on Wednesday nights. We're so glad that you're a part of this team. It's really making it possible for you to get to know some kids on a name basis and being able to pray with them, teach them scripture, and see them grow spiritually. It's these deposits week by week by week that are going to make a difference in your kids' spiritual formation. So thanks for doing this every week. Give you a rundown on what we're doing this next week, where we're going to be talking about Moses not as a baby but as an adult with the Exodus. So we're going to be doing the 10 plagues and the parting of the Red Sea, some high action this week. So let's check out some of the activities. As a reminder, this agenda for what we're going to be doing is available on Planning Center Services. So if you have that app, you can download it and you can see timestamps and titles for every activity that is planned for this next week. Also, if you've activated the link to the Superbook page, you can see the detailed instructions in a digital format. I apologize it wasn't uploaded this week because we ran out of space on our server, but we're going to get that fixed. So, not the church server, it's the Planning Center server, totally different. But we'll have both of those printed out for you if you want to read the directions in advance. Okay, so we're continuing on the week of soccer, the month of soccer. But I just wanted to point out, if you notice that one of your soccer balls are feeling deflated or a little squishy because the temperature has been changing so much, we do have one of these little air pumps that you can use to go ahead and pump up the soccer balls. So feel free to do that to keep your kids active and engaged. We've also got the cards, so you can continue to do a fun sit-down activity for some of the kids that maybe don't want to do something quite as physical, but you still want to make it fun as they're coming in that first half hour, keep them engaged with the game of Slapjack this month. And we have those praise and prayer forms. Those are working out really well, so make sure you use some time at the beginning to have the kids write down their prayer and praise requests, and that way you can be praying for your kids during the week and get to know kind of what's going on at home and school for them. So in our Superbook this week, we're talking about how God sees and hears and understands me, even when I'm going through problems. And so we're going to talk about how God saw the oppression of the Israelites when they were in Egypt. And so our first talks about that, where God says, I've surely seen the oppression of my people, I've heard their cry, and I know their sorrow. So we're going to be talking to the kids about how God sees you and understands how you're feeling. So in our first activity, you'll have a relay race where they'll be carrying buckets filled with sand. It's going to be in a sealed Ziploc bag so they won't make a mess. But they're going to be carrying these from one side of the room to the other, changing the sand into another bucket and then bringing it back. It's kind of a pointless task, but we're going to be showing the kids how the Israelites had to do some ridiculous, futile work that didn't make any sense, but they had to do it because they were slaves. And how awful would that be? So we're really trying to get the kids to feel kind of like this is hard. So the bags are going to be a little heavy. That'll be our first relay race. In the second activity, we're going to make a chain. You're going to have the kids cut out strips of these colored papers here, and they're going to make a chain with a stapler and tape. Just make the circles, turn them around, and they'll make little circles. And that's just talking again about the chains of slavery. And there's some comments here about the super truth, some challenges for the kids as you're talking about what it would be like to be a slave. For the super verse this week, we have some motions for the verse. And so we have somebody pointing to their eyes, their ears, and their head as we talk about God seeing and hearing and then knowing how we're feeling. So that'll be some motions for the verse. Again, this is part of the Superbook packet. Next, we'll do an object lesson that has a long rope that kind of represents eternity. It's a timeline of sorts, and the very tip of it is going to be colored, and that's going to represent the span of a person's life. You know that proverb that talks about how it says, teach me to number my days so that I might gain a heart of wisdom, right? It's this idea of perspective. Your eternity goes on for a long time, right? And this little bitty part that we see right here is our life. So even if we're going through some bad things right now, we need to remember that in eternity, God has something way better for us, and that I can still trust his plan, even if something is going bad in this little part of my life right now. Okay, next we're going to do an obstacle course, and it's not going to be very complicated, but basically we're going to be talking about walking through the wilderness and listening to God's voice. And so the obstacles will be 4 boxes that have different obstacles that the Israelites faced, like not having food or water or complaining. And as the racers, or well, it's not race really, but as the players are going through it, they have to be blindfolded. So they'll have an eye mask, and then somebody else is going to be the voice of God directing them through the wilderness, through the different obstacles. So the kids will have to practice listening. And a way to complicate this game, because I like to make it complicated, is you have more than one going at the same time, or you can have one person go, and when they get past the second obstacle, maybe you have the second person start, so there's different voices at the same time. Or you can have all the kids making noise and just one person being the voice of God. I'm going to try it out, see what works. And the final object lesson that we'll do is with a bag of occupational tools like a hammer or a spatula, and we're going to have the kids try to figure out what kind of occupation would use this kind of skilled tool. And it's just an occupation matching game, but you're going to use it as a way to talk about Moses, who didn't feel skilled. He didn't feel like he had the tools that he needed in order to be used by God, and yet God used him anyway, even though he didn't feel like he could do it. As always, you have lots of other resources here: snacks, Bibles, water bottles. There's going to be all kinds of things for you here. But we just appreciate you coming here and being here for the kids. Thanks for watching this short video, and we will see you next Wednesday.